Everyone. Thanks so much for joining our accounting information session this morning. My name is Michelle Dowling. I'm the program manager for our accounting program, and I'm excited today to tell you a little bit about our program. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So if you have any issues with your sound or your technology, please use the chat box, which hopefully will still be functioning, to let us know, and we'll see what we can do. Also, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, use the Q&A box to send those to us. And we'll try to answer them along the way. A lot of times your questions are things we're about to cover in the presentation anyway, so it works out. And then at the end, we'll go ahead and do a Q&A for everything we haven't been able to address. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about our agenda for today. So the most exciting part of today that we'll talk about in a second is that you get a discount just for attending live. So that's a great benefit. I'm going to go over the accounting program information, let you know how our program is designed and how to get started. We're going to talk with an instructor in our program who tells you a little bit about what he looks for in student performance and how the courses are laid out. Hopefully, if technology cooperates, we'll hear from a graduate of our program. We're going to talk a little bit about financing your education. I know that's important to a lot of you and give you some insight into some resources. Then we're going to cover a little bit about the steps to becoming a CPA, because we know for a lot of you that's your long-term goal. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to finish up with a question and answer session and kind of cover everything that we haven't been able to cover in the presentation. Great. So I always like to start with a poll. And in this case, I want to ask, how did you first hear about us? We really want to know kind of where people are coming and how our information is reaching you so that we can reach you better. All right, so some people hear about us from word of mouth or personal recommendation. Most people hear about us from the internet search, sometimes still a paper mailing or brochure, or you can just say other. So we'll give you a moment to fill that out, and then I'll let you know how it ends up looking. Okay, so yeah, very typically about 3/4 of you found out about us through an internet search, and that's really common. And it's interesting, so nobody learned about us from a paper brochure, and that's helpful to us. We don't want to spend our resources sending out traditional mailings if nobody's using them. We want to put our resources back into our curriculum. So that's wonderful. Thank you very much for answering that. Okay. All right, so as I mentioned, just for attending live today, you will get a $100 discount off your first course, and you'll want to stay tuned to the end because we're going to talk a little bit more about that and some ways we're going to follow up with that coupon code. We're also going to post a recording of this information session on our website, so please refer your family, friends, colleagues if they want to see it as well, but only people attending live actually get the discount, so it's good that you guys were able to join us. Okay. So I'm joined today by our program representative for accounting, Jen Knudsen. Jen and I are going to be your kind of career advisors as you go through the program. But I want to also let you know about the rest of our team, because we have a great student services staff. They man the phones all day, every day, and they're really your first point of contact if you have any general questions. So I would really recommend, if you're not ready to enroll online, if you have a few logistical questions, you can always give them a call, or you can send them an email, and they can help answer those questions. Once you enroll, or when you're more serious about the program, that's where Jen and I come in, and we'll be your program advisors as you progress through the program and help you with different issues relating to your coursework. Okay, so I'm going to do one more poll. So I want to know a little bit about you, and that way I can cater the presentation more to your background. So I'd like to know a little bit about why you're interested in our accounting programs. What brought you here today? So are you currently working in the field and you just want to advance your skills? Are you a career changer? Do you need an academic certificate for your job or to apply for jobs? Are you interested in sitting for the CPA exam and need course credits? Are you interested in pursuing a master's and you kind of want to get a certificate or pursue our courses to get the prerequisites out of the way or to learn more about the field? Or are you just a lifelong learner and you just love numbers and you want to take some accounting classes? Or other. Sometimes we have independent business owners or people who have to understand basic financials, and so they take our courses to better themselves. All right, we'll give everyone a second. Okay. Oh, cool. So it looks like it's equally split. So about 40% of you work in accounting and you're just looking to advance your skills. That's very common. And about another 40% are interested in sitting for the CPA exam. And since you can pick more than one answer, a lot of you are probably in both categories. And that's very common. We've got about a third of you looking for a career change. That's wonderful. That's what UC Davis Extension or UC Davis Continuing Professional Ed does best. And then about 17% of you really need this coursework or the certificate for your job or to apply for jobs. A couple people interested in the master's, and then a couple people just interested in lifelong learning. All right, thanks so much for doing that. Great. All right. Okay, so I want to tell you a little bit about the basics of our program. All this information is also available on our website, but it's also helpful just to have someone walk you through it because I know it's a lot to take in. So basically, our program consists of 2 certificates and 9 courses. All of our courses are offered online, and they're all 4-quarter credit units. So they are academic courses. All of our coursework is approved by the UC Davis Graduate School of Management, and they are for academic credit. So that's important for those of you who have long-term goals like sitting for the CPA exam. You can take our courses individually or part of a certificate. Most people pursue a certificate, but we also understand that for some of you, you already have perhaps a good amount of accounting coursework under your belt or at your job, and you just need a specific class. You just need an auditing class, or you just need ethics and accounting for your work or to sit for the CPA exam. That's fine. You are welcome to take courses with us individually. We call it a la carte. You just want to make sure that you meet the prerequisite requirements. Being accounting, there's a good number of prerequisites, and they're important because we want to set everyone up for success. And if you haven't had the proper prerequisite, you're really going to flounder in the advanced classes. All right. Just to remind some of you who are used to a semester system, those 4 credit units, that's the equivalent of about 2.66 semester units, just in case you ever have to correlate from your undergraduate work. So we have the 2 certificates. These are new. We're really excited about them because we think they better meet today's student needs. So the first one is the Accounting Principles Certificate. And the audience for this certificate is basically people who are looking for core coursework in accounting. Perhaps you were an economics major undergrad or a history major, or perhaps you didn't have the opportunity to go to college. This way you can take these 4 courses, and I'll talk in more in depth in a second, in our principles certificate, and you'll meet basic accounting core coursework. And that'll allow you to work as a financial assistant, a financial analyst, partner with an accountant that maybe your organization contracts with, and understand the basics of accounting and financial work. The other certificate is the specialist certificate. The envisioned audience for this certificate is someone who perhaps was an accounting minor in college. Like UC Davis just launched an accounting minor recently, and that's really the audience for this certificate. You took all the core coursework as an undergraduate, and now you're ready to go that next step. Or perhaps you've taken some basic accounting courses years ago in college, and you've been working in the industry for many years, and you feel that you're very well versed in the basics and you're ready to move on. And so our specialist certificate is geared towards those people. You do not need to take the principal certificate with us to take the specialist certificate. They stand alone. The only requirement for someone wanting to pursue the specialist certificate is that you follow the course prerequisites. And basically, every course in the specialist certificate program has a prerequisite of principles of financial accounting, which is basically introduction to accounting. So if you have that out of the way, then you're ready to pursue the specialist certificate. And if you don't, you can take that course a la carte from our program and then move on to the specialist, no problem. By taking both of these certificate programs, the coursework, all 9 courses that make up both these certificates, you will meet the accounting course requirements to sit for the CPA exam. So that's why we've designed our program this way. So that by, if you know you're starting from scratch, but you know your long-term goals to sit for the CPA exam, you just pursue both certificates with us, and you'll have all 36 quarter credit units of accounting coursework to meet the CPA board's qualifications. All right. And just another thing I want to say is we generally recommend that people take just 1 course per quarter if they're working full-time. If you're not working full-time or you're in between jobs, we're not going to stop you from taking more courses, But our continuing education courses are really designed for the working professional. So we really want people, we don't want them to be overloaded. And given that these are 4 credit unit courses, which is the maximum credit units we offer here at continuing education, the accounting ones we designed to be taken one at a time. All right, so I want to go a little more in depth into the certificates because the majority of our students do want to pursue a certificate. So the principal certificate, as I mentioned, the audience for this certificate are people who are looking for core accounting coursework. So this certificate starts with Principles of Financial Accounting. And this is, again, Introduction to Accounting. It's the basic course, and it's the prereq for every other course in the program. Fortunately, for those of you who are in an accelerated path, perhaps not working at the time, this can be taken concurrently with any of the other courses. The next course that's required is Principles of Cost Accounting. This is also called Managerial Accounting, and this is another basic course in our program. And then it's followed by 2 Intermediate Accounting. These are 2 separate classes, Part 1 and Part 2. They have to be taken in that order, and they cannot be taken concurrently. So what I recommend to someone who's interested in the Principal Certificate is, and I apologize, this list is slightly out of order, the way our schedule is designed, I would recommend starting with Principles of Financial Accounting and then moving on to Intermediate Part 1 so you can have that out of the way and be poised to take Intermediate Part 2 when it's offered. Cost Accounting you can kind of take whenever you're ready. And we can talk more about that once you are enrolled in the program. This is our other certificate program. It's the Specialist Certificate. And just to reiterate, this is aimed at someone with some experience, some coursework under their belt, probably some professional experience, who's looking to take their accounting coursework to that next step. The prerequisite for every course in this program is Principles of Financial Accounting, Introduction to Accounting. So if you took it as an undergrad or you want to take it with us first, that's fine, or take it concurrently. But you will need to have that out of the way while you pursue these courses. These courses can be taken in any order. They all stand alone. So I've put the quarters that they're offered up there so you can kind of get a sense of how one might plan their course plan. And if you schedule it right, you can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They work out well. We do generally recommend people take the ethics class near the end just because it draws on a lot of the experiences, but it's not required. Right. So there's 2 ways to pursue a certificate. I already talked about the a la carte option if you're just wanting to take 1 or 2 courses to round out some learning gaps. But if you're all in and you want to pursue a certificate, there are 2 ways to pursue either one of the certificates. The first way is at your own pace. And this is kind of our traditional design that we've offered for years. It's really geared towards a working professional. It ensures flexibility, and it's really designed for someone who wants to do this while they're working full-time, have a family. So maybe they take a course in the fall, then they can't take another course till summer. That's fine. You have 5 years to complete all the courses in each of the programs. When you start or around the time you take your first class, you're going to go online and do the certificate registration. That lets us know that you are declaring that you want to be part of the certificate. There is a fee with that. You pay that at the time. The advantage of doing that is that you will be on our radar. You'll be in our certificate program. So as we have programmatic changes, we will work with you to make sure that you don't lose any credits and that your course plan is still in place. We'll be in touch with you. You get preferred enrollment in your courses, things like that. So this is kind of just an important way. If you already know you're going to do the certificate, registering is an important way to be part of our program and allow us to work with you and help you. Another advantage of this path is you enroll and pay for each class as you go. So if you're paying your own way and money's tight, you can start with Principles of Financial Accounting, which is the intro course offered every single quarter, start any time. And then maybe you skip a few quarters while work is busy or you have year-end closeout, and then you revisit your coursework and then you pay for the next course. So you're not committing any money up front except for the course right in front of you. So it has a lot of flexibility, and you're eligible for any individual discounts, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Okay, the other way to pursue the certificate, and this is new for us, and it's really been successful in other programs, is something we're calling the fast track. It's not so much fast as it's consistent. And what that means is you are purchasing a set course plan. So we've designed an optimum course plan of 1 course per quarter going straight through, and you would enroll in the fast track from the beginning. And you would pay the entire tuition for the entire program up front, but you would receive the largest discount we offer, which is 15% off all your tuition, and you waive the $125 certificate fee. So there's a lot of benefits. You also have the benefit priority enrollment in your classes, and you get to go through the program in the fastest, pretty much the fastest way the schedule allows. And that would be basically 1, 2, 3, 4, straight through in a 12-month period, most likely for the principals, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about a 15-month period for the fast track. There is a caveat. Some of the entry points, like in the winter, you have 1 extra quarter, just the way the schedule works out. But it's still a pretty direct and planned route. And a lot of people, we designed this program because we wanted to have a better sense of who was going to be joining us. But we found that a lot of students, in addition to the discount and the preferred enrollment and the upfront payment, they liked having structure. They liked being told, okay, just tell me what courses I need, tell me the optimal order, and I don't want to worry about it. You're the experts, tell me what to take. So it's worked out really well. What I always tell people is you want to make sure the fast track is going to work for your schedule, because once you enroll in it, you are committing to taking the courses in the design, the set course plan that we've designed. So if you have to change it or drop out, you do incur fees and penalties to go to the other path. So you just want to make sure, okay, yeah, my life is stable. I can commit the 4 quarters that you need. I know what I'm doing for the next 12 months. If you have a lot of tumult, you're in the middle of a job search, you don't know if your life's going to change, maybe do the at your own pace approach just so you have that flexibility and you're not tied in. All right. I just wanted to kind of introduce you quickly to our instructors. We have some great instructors in the program. They're all highly qualified. They all have graduate degrees. They're all CPAs, and they've been teaching for us for a long time. Many of them used to teach for us in the classroom. Now they're teaching online. Really great people, because it is important to know when you're doing an online program that you are working with an actual individual. You are working with a live instructor. These are not canned programs. They're not, pre-recorded on the whole. Some of the lectures, pre-recorded, but you'll have someone you can always reach out to and contact. You're getting real life feedback from a working accountant. All of these individuals work during the day as accountants. So they bring a lot of personal history and examples to what they're teaching you. And I think that's really important. They're also great resources for those of you doing our program and thinking about career changing or looking for a position, a job, sitting for the CPA exam. They can really serve as mentors and your first step in networking towards learning what's out there in the job market, what they look for when they hire accountants or financial assistants. All right. So today we have the opportunity to share with you an instructor interview we did with one of our veteran instructors, Jim Veneman. Jim teaches our auditing class and accounting for government and nonprofit organizations. And Jim's a senior management auditor. He's with the state of California. So he brings kind of a different perspective. As some of you may know, the state of California does not actually require you to have a CPA to work as an accountant. So it's kind of a nice option for people who maybe that path isn't open to them yet or at all. Jim did go out and get his CPA, but after he had been established. So I'm going to just take a moment and play this video for you.
Well, thanks, Michelle. I'm excited to join this presentation today, and welcome here to my office here in Sacramento. Indeed, I'm at work today,
Yeah, exactly.
just like you said. And yes, I've got some emails from students today asking questions.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Yeah, Jim's really responsive and really great working with the students. Jim, just to start off, I'd like you to tell everyone a little bit about your background and how you came to be an accountant.
Well, as I tell people when I tell my story, when I was a young man, if somebody would have told me when I was in my 20s that I would be end up in the accounting profession and I would be a CPA, I'd have told them they were nuts, because there's no way that I would have done that. My father was a CPA, and he worked really hard, and I wanted to go a different direction. So when I went to school, my first degree was I had a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Communication Arts, because I wanted to go in the broadcasting business. And I did that for a while. I went into the Air Force for a few years and worked in Armed Forces Radio and Television Service, which sent me overseas, and that was all fun. But there came a point when I had a kind of an epiphany, I guess you'd say, and I thought, do I really want to pursue this career, or do I want to do something different? So at the time, this is before the internet. As you can see, I'm not exactly a young guy here. So there was one day that I was wondering, well, I wonder what kind of jobs are out there. So I picked up a copy of the LA Times on a Sunday and looked at the job ads, and I noticed there were 6 pages of accounting and auditing jobs. So I thought, well, maybe this is something worth looking at, even though this is what my dad did. But maybe I should take another look at it. And well, as it turns out, I went back to school and got my master's degree in accounting. I went to the University of Cincinnati and graduated in 1979 and started working in banking. So I spent my first 14 years in the banking industry. And the banking industry was a pretty good place to work, but it got to a point where banks started to buy and sell each other. So I thought, well, maybe I should make a career change to something else. And I moved to California and ended up with a job here at the state controller's office in California, where I've been now I just had my 25th anniversary here just a few months ago.
Wow.
So along the way, I got my CPA certificate in 2004. So it's been a pretty good ride. This has been a really good career for me. And I've been working for UC Davis Extension since 2011. Back when I started with the school, we had only live classes. So I've seen us transition from doing all live classes now to all online classes. And that's been fun to be a part of. So.
Jim, you brought up a good point, and I want to make sure that I'm clear on something. So you mentioned that you worked for the state for a long time as an accountant, but you didn't actually sit for the CPA exam until about 15 years ago. So is it true that to hold the position of accountant at the state of California, you don't necessarily need a CPA?
No, there's no requirement that I'm aware of in any organization with the state to be a CPA. Generally speaking, the requirement to be a CPA is in private accounting firms. But here at the state, folks want to be a CPA because they want to use it as a way for promotion and to get into management primarily.
And mastery, right?
Yeah, well, that too, yes. Yeah.
No, that's a very good point, because I want to mention that because a lot of people come into our program and their goal is to sit for the CPA exam, but that is a very challenging exam. And so I also want to let people know that this could be a journey. You can take our courses. If you decide to take our courses a la carte, you have 5 years to complete your certificate work. So really don't overpressure yourself. Remember that there's a lot of job opportunities with accounting knowledge that don't require you to necessarily sit for the exam. And that's something you can do as you get further along in your profession. So Jim, what would you recommend to students who are looking to start the program and take your courses?
These courses are they're pretty fast paced. We move along at a good pace. In my auditing class, we go through 21 chapters in 12 weeks. In the government accounting class, we go through 18 chapters in 12 weeks. So it moves along at about the same pace as a master's program. And what I've always told all my students in my classes is that if you don't have a background in accounting terminology, you haven't taken any accounting courses at all, then you're probably going to get lost in the first couple of weeks, because both of my classes presume you have an understanding of accounting.
And the prerequisites too, which are several.
Right. Yeah. But and I've noticed that I have a mix of students that are in all different places. Some of them have accounting degrees. Some of them have degrees in all types of things. And they're scattered now all across the country. And if they're willing to put in the time, there is a lot of time required to work on these courses, because like I said, if you look at my textbook, it's a lot of complicated material, and we go through it pretty quick, but we try to, through the lectures and the homework, try to make it, simplify it as best we can so it's understandable. And so it seems to work because most students do pretty well.
Yeah, and that's something I want to let people know, because we often get that question, how many people succeed? The high majority of our students pass our courses and successfully get a certificate in the time they allotted. So I think most of our students have some college under a belt. You're not required to, but they understand the importance of studying. It's really about putting the time in. I don't think it's rare for us to encounter a student who doesn't have the capability to fulfill the course requirements. Right. It's really just whether they have the discipline and time to put in the commitment. And as I mentioned, for a 4 credit unit class, you're going to want to plan about 10 hours a week per class. So you don't want to overload yourself. There are weekly assignments and weekly due dates, which I think really helps keep people on task. But also at the same time, the majority of our students are very successful. And so I think if you're realistic and you plan ahead, you'll do fine. So I do want, Jim, to ask you to talk a little bit, since you were a career changer yourself, I'd like you to talk a little bit to our career changers, because a lot of people come in and they're worried that they're already going to be behind or that it's going to be too big of a change. So if you could talk a little bit about your experience with students who've been on that path.
Well, yeah, I had that same issue because when I decided to go into accounting, I was already in my early 30s. And, usually by the time you're in your early 30s, a lot of people are expecting you to have already a career in mind and be well along the path. But I decided to switch midlife, I guess you'd say. But it worked out. You're never really, we have a wide range of people here at our office. We have a lot of young folks in their early 30s and 40s and some older people. I think what I would say for career changers is if you're going to the accounting profession, you need to kind of figure out whether you want to go into auditing or accounting, because those are the two main professions for accounting jobs. They're quite different jobs. In auditing, you can be an external auditor or an internal auditor. In accounting, there's a wide range of different things that you can do. But they're very different kinds of jobs, and that auditing requires you to usually go out to somebody else's place of business and figure out how their accounting system works and work with accounting statements and compliance issues and work with people a lot. Accounting jobs mean you're probably sitting at a desk creating financial statements or financial reports, and you're doing a routine over time, over 30 days, 6 months, and a year. So they're very different jobs. And the other thing I would say is I've heard people say, oh, I want to get a job in accounting because I can make good money. And that's about the worst reason to go into a job. If you don't have a passion for working with numbers and also working with people that, work with those numbers, you may make good money, but you're not going to like it. So.
That's a good point. That's a valid point. We noticed in our poll that kind of the largest group of people who are here today are interested, at least at some point, in sitting for the CPA exam. We talked a little bit about that, but and we'll talk to a Becker rep later on in the webinar. But anything you'd like to share about the exam in particular from your experience?
Well, exam is certainly difficult. That hasn't changed over time. I get a quarterly magazine from the Board of Accountancy, and so the pass rate is still running around 50%, and it's been that way for years. The exam was quite different now than when I took it. When I took it, it was a paper exam. Now everything's online. So it's a different process, but the exam questions haven't changed any. You're still required to understand a lot of material. And I think the thing about the CPA exam, it's not, if you're smart enough to pass college courses or get a degree at a college or university, you're smart enough to take the CPA exam and pass it. What makes the exam hard is the amount of material that's on it. I used to go into it. I remember going into the CPA exam, I felt like my head was the size of a basketball because all the stuff I jammed into my brain to pass the course. And that's what makes it hard because of the amount of material. But there are really good resources out there for studying for the exam. The Becker course is one of them, and we'll be talking to a Becker rep here shortly. There's a lot of other materials that you can use, and I know that I used, and it worked out really well. So that's, yeah, in a nutshell, that's pretty much.
Be prepared. Yeah, don't underestimate it. Yeah,
it's not easy by any means, yeah. But it's doable.
Okay, well, that's always good. So Jim, before we leave you today, well, Jim will stay with us for the Q&A, but before we move on, is there anything else you want to share with people interested in taking our courses?
Well, our courses do cover a wide range of subjects, whether you're going to be a career changer or for the CPA, sitting for the CPA exam. I know I've talked to the different instructors that you saw their pictures here earlier, and I feel like our program really does a really good job of explaining how accounting works out in the real world. I've always marveled at, courses I've taken in the past at college, at how you take a course and you go through this textbook and you get out in the real world and it's different. Well, I know in my two courses, that's definitely not the case. And I've always enjoyed hearing from students that have taken our courses. They get back to me sometimes and let me know how things worked out for them. And it's exciting to hear how they've gone on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, no, that's great. All right, well, thank you so much, Jim. All right. All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope you found that interview with Jim Veneman helpful. Of course, he's not going to be here for Q&A, but if any of you have any questions for Jim or any of our other instructors, definitely send them in to us, and Jen and I will pass them on. That's no problem at all. So I want to take a few seconds just to talk about the next step. So we are offering courses this fall. They start September 23rd, and they last 12 weeks, so through December 15th. There are weekly assignments and weekly deadlines, just like a regular college course. These are the 4 courses that are coming up this fall. So for most of you who are just starting out, Principles of Financial Accounting is going to be where you begin. But for those of you who have that course out of the way already, you can move on to either Financial Statement Analysis or the Ethics course, or if you've taken Intermediate Accounting Part 1, you can take that in the fall too. Really depends on each person's case. I do let people know that because they're 4 credit unit courses and they last 12 weeks, we estimate that you're going to want to commit about 8 to 10, 8 to 12 hours a week per course on your coursework. So when you're planning out your time, as we mentioned in that interview with Jim, success is often just about how much time and effort you're willing to put into it. So if you can devote around 10 hours a week on your coursework per class, you're going to probably be just fine. So that's something to keep in mind. I also want to highlight once again that no previous accounting experience is necessary to start our program. You start with Principles of Financial Accounting. Technically, all you need is a high school diploma. You don't even need any college. Sometimes helps to have some college under your belt because you'll be more accustomed to the time management skills and working with a syllabus and assignments, but it's not needed. We've had people just graduated from high school, have done our program and done just fine. So that's just some good things to remember as you prepare. All right, I want to do one more poll. So I want to know a little bit about, now that you know how our program is offered, how do you think you might pursue it? Are you only up for taking an individual course at this time? Are you all in? You know you want to do a certificate and the fast track is going to work perfectly for you? Are you interested in a certificate, but you think at your own pace, a little more flexibility is going to work for you? Or you're just not sure? You just need to do a little bit more research. So I'll give people a second to make a selection on that. All right. Oh, great. Yeah, so we have a lot of people, about half of you are interested in the fast track. That's exciting because that is a really clean, direct way to do it. And then about another 40% are interested in the certificate, but think the at your own pace. And I totally get it. I know what it's like when you're working full time. And then about 70% of you are just up for an individual course at this time. And that's fine. A lot of other continuing education programs don't allow you to take individual courses, but that's something we really pride ourselves on. We want to be as flexible as possible. Okay, great. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about cost. So basically, each course is about $880, and textbooks are separate from that. And sometimes you can get textbooks used, same routine as you had as an undergraduate, but you're going to want to, especially if you're getting reimbursed to your employer or special funding, you're going to want to factor in the tuition and the textbooks. For those of you pursuing a certificate and not doing the fast track, there is going to be the certificate fee as well. If you're just taking individual classes and you have no need or interest in a certificate, you don't have to pay that fee. You just take the classes a la carte. We do offer a range of discounts. As I mentioned, the best discount opportunity is the fast track. That's 15% off the entire program, and you waive the fee. But if you do early enrollment, like you're going to do the at your own pace certificate, or you're just going to take classes individually and kind of have your act together in advance, go ahead and enroll 2 weeks or earlier, and you get $50 off each class. If you're a member of the Cal Ogley Alumni Association, you get $50 off each course. If your organization is going to send 3 or more people to a class, let us know. Enroll together, especially if you're paying by purchase order, and you'll get 10% off each person, each course. The one thing that I should tell you is that the discounts can't be combined. So you'd want to kind of look at the options and pick the discount that's best for you. And then that's when you apply. And that applies also to today's $100 off. So $100 off for attending today is going to be a better deal than the early bird or the Cal Aggie, but it's probably not going to be a better deal than the fast track or the group discount. So you just have to make that an assessment. So I'm going to pause for a moment, and I really would like to play an interview we did with a recent graduate of our program. She brings a lot of kind of experience and insight. So I want to just go ahead and share Terry's story with you.
Well, Terry, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself? Obviously, you have a lot of experience in business, and we would love to hear about just that sort of brief intro to yourself, and then we'll ask you some questions.
Certainly. I am a business professional. I started off in technology straight out of undergraduate about 20 plus years ago. And I morphed into more of a business sales and marketing role, and that's where I spent the bulk of my career. But what I started looking at during some shifts in our economy back in 2008, I looked at the turnover in my industry. I looked at where I wanted to be 20 years from now, career-wise, and starting to augment my skills. And I started looking at what industries were very stable and what kind of professions were pretty much ubiquitous. And accounting is an excellent profession. I did a lot of research on the profession, and it's in every industry. Everywhere you look, there is a need for an accountant or a CPA. And so I started researching the programs that were available to me and seeing how they would, augment my skills. And the people that I talked to, and a few of the professors, they talked about accounting being a recession-proof profession. And as someone who is currently working in an accounting role and going through a lot of interviews, I can tell you it absolutely is a recession-proof industry, that profession specifically. My background was pretty much, it was utilizing a lot of aspects of thinking like an accountant, but there was a lot of information that I needed that accounting provides. Accounting is a language of business, and it fills in those holes that you don't necessarily have in your toolkit. And so it made me a better, well-rounded professional. And now I'm seeing that bridge, that connection in the different industries I've looked at and interviewed with as an accountant. And it's just created this complete picture for me where I had those knowledge gaps before. I don't know if you want to ask me the question or just...
Yeah, no, that's great. So when you were looking, considering your options, how did you choose UC Davis Extension? What appealed to you?
I had compared quite a few programs, and I started narrowing them down based on a couple of key things that really were key for me. The modality was a big factor. Were the classes available online? The quality of the instruction, were the instructors real world experts in their respective areas of accounting? Were they strictly academians? Cost was another factor, and timeline. How long would it take me to complete the program? And so when I searched for a program that I thought would fit my particular needs and, balance with my work life, home life, UC Davis was on the top of my list. I looked at the cost. It was equal to any other program out there, but I noticed that it was, less costly. I liked the profile of the instructors. I liked the modality. I consequently completed my entire program online. I had given myself 2 years to do it, and I completed it in about 18 months. And, just looking back, one of the major things that appealed to me with the extension program at UCD was that it assumes you have no prior accounting experience or education. And that's where I wanted to start, because my goal was to become a CPA and to schedule my first gigs in fall. was something that was important to me, because the programs out there, they required a prerequisite or two before you can enter a certificate program. And that just isn't feasible.
Okay, so Terry, I think we're getting a little bit of interference with your audio, so we'll just try to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. We'll just try to keep an eye on that. I know that you were just sharing that that the fact that you could enter the program without necessarily prior experience or prior educational requirements was a key point for you. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Great. And what are some of the key skills that you learned, or like some of the projects that you worked on, or things that you did in your classes that really translated into your career that you saw an immediate gain from?
Well, at the time that I started the program, I was serving on a board of directors as the finance and budget chair. And my second class that I took was in governmental accounting. And I was amazed by the immediate connection of being able to apply what I was learning about governmental and nonprofit accounting to that environment, and being able to take very technical information, being able to communicate with the accountant for the nonprofit and break down those, numbers to non-numbers people. The majority of our board was not comprised of business people, but of educators. And so financial statements were not something they were used to looking at. They weren't used to looking through things like that and making very wise decisions financially, determining how they would, allocate money for the nonprofit. So that was an immediate use of those skills. And I also was, at that time, I'm trying to think, I took governmental accounting, and I also took financial statement analysis. And that was, again, another huge skill set, asset for me, because it was just a great pairing at that time. And, since then, just looking back at all the classes, each class, you're going to walk away with a skill set, because accounting builds on itself. One of the things you will learn as you progress through the program, every course you take has significant tools to teach you, and they build on one another. And there, is this entire quantitative and very conceptual thought process, these skills that you develop throughout the program. Another very essential skill set in the governmental accounting is when I transitioned into doing internships with the government and working on governmental financial statements and being able to work on different federal awards, I was able to translate those skills directly from the class into those particular jobs and those roles. Overall, there's just so much you will gain going through the program. You will become, very well versed in accounting. You will learn the core essentials that you need to prepare you for the CPA exam. And you will feel confident when you come out that you are capable of going into any entry-level accounting position or preparing for your CPA exam, whatever your particular goal is. You will be prepared. The instructors are excellent. Their experience is, you're talking about people with over 20 and 30 years of experience in the bulk of these courses. So my being able to approach them with questions that sometimes, yes, they were founded in the particular class I was taking that quarter, but a lot of times I was applying them to my job or my service on that, on the board of the nonprofit. They were able to answer questions that otherwise I would have to figure out on my own.
That's
and
right.
So having that accessibility to those professors was hugely impactful for me.
Great. And what advice do you have for prospective students?
My advice is to really look at your work-life balance and know that this particular program, for me, my life was super busy. Just as a caveat, while I was attempting to get through my program, I was also in graduate school at the same time. So I was handling a master's degree plus this program, work, and serving on a nonprofit. I wouldn't suggest going through a master's program at the same time, but I was able to do that because the modality of this program, being able to access my professors, time management is your biggest skill to managing your course load. My biggest advice to you is to look at your current work schedule, because most people who are going through extension are working professionals. Look at your work and life schedule and know that you can get through these classes and you can do very well in them. I was able to look at all the classes being offered each quarter, and I literally scheduled every single class through my entire program during my first quarter. And I was able to adjust my work-life balance with my academic pursuits. Every single quarter I knew what, how to plan and schedule my life. And you want to look at your program the way you look at a job. You want to set aside time to be in class, to participate in your chat room, to deal with your homework, because when you're dealing with an online program, if you choose to pursue all of your classes online, you need to really manage your time. That's one of the biggest takeaways I had, was time management, but I did it, and if I had to do it again, I would do this program again.
Great.
Because it was excellent for me. It really was easy to manage my time. I got really good at that.
Well, Terry, why don't
All right. Hi, guys. I'm just going to go back to where we were, because I think that was really good to hear from Terry. And now I just want to resume and talk just a little bit more about financing your education. So I know a lot of you, this is a big interest area. It's really important. And so because of that, we have a student services advisor right on our team, Diane Carr, and she does nothing but assist students in financing their education. So while we don't offer federal grants, like Pell Grants, the way you might have had in your undergraduate experience, because we're not a matriculated degree program, we do have some preferred lenders for educational loans. There's a lot of training funds out there, and Diane's just an expert in all of this and can help you out. So for those of you who think you might be eligible or interested in any of those options, I have two pieces of advice. One, on our website under student services, Diane's created a great page called Financing Your Education. I recommend you check that out. And then also I recommend contacting Diane, maybe telling her a little bit about what you're interested in, or you're like, I'm a former military vet, that type of thing, so that she can look into what programs might help you with your tuition. I do want to point out, we're going to send Diane's information in the follow-up email as well, so don't have to rush to write it down. And I've just been informed that Diane actually has a new phone number, so we'll include that in the follow-up email. But she always, the same email, and she's really good with email. That's probably the best way to contact her. Okay, I want to do one last poll. So I want to find out if you've taken accounting courses in the past, because one thing, as you've seen all our speakers have talked about, is, well, you don't need any previous experience for our program. It's good for us to know as we design our program where you're coming from, how many of you took courses as an undergraduate or elsewhere, and how many of you are truly brand new. So I'm just going to give you a second. Let us know if you've taken some, if you were an accounting major or minor, you took quite a few. If you were in an adjunct field, such as finance or economics, or if you haven't taken any at all. All right. Give you a second to fill that out. And there's no right or wrong answer, just kind of trying to get to know you better. Okay, let's see what we've got. Okay, yeah, so it looks like some of you, about half of you, have taken some accounting, and that's typical. And it's okay, that 10% of you that haven't taken anything, that's all right too. And yeah, and part of the reason we redesigned our program was for that 15% of you that are saying, hey, I was an accounting minor or major. We wanted to offer some programs that allowed people to jump in and not have to retake the basics. So that's good to see. Thank you. All right. So something else I want to just make you aware of is, for those of you who are interested in taking your education even further, and some of you responded that you're considering, a master's program. UC Davis does have a master's in accountancy, and our program, two of the courses in our program meet our prerequisites for the master's in accounting. So the introduction or principles of financial accounting and the principles of cost accounting are both prerequisites you'll need for that master's. So, and it's also, our program is a good way to kind of make sure this is something you're interested in before you commit, you know, $50,000 and 2 years of your life to get a master's. So, but if you have any questions about the UC Davis accounting master's program, highly encourage you. They have a great website, and just to take a peek at their information directly. All right. So the last interview I want to play is with Jeanette Klinke, because she is our Becker test prep partner. She's the representative, and they have a wonderful operation over there at Becker. So one thing I always want to make clear is here at UC Davis, we offer the coursework to help prepare you for the CPA exam, but it's not specifically test prep. And as Jim, our instructor, mentioned, test prep can be really helpful for you as you prepare for the exam, and Becker's offers a really good product. So I want to play this interview because Janae does a really good job of just walking through all the necessary steps to sit for the CPA exam. There's also some wonderful information that you can get to from our website, which is a link to the California CPA Board, the Board of Accountancy. They have a lot of information too, but it can be overwhelming. So I'm going to go ahead and just let Janae tell you a little bit of the basics.
Hi everyone, my name is Janae Klinke. I'm the account manager for Becker Professional Education in California and Nevada. Becker Professional Education is an organization that works with universities, firms, and corporations to assist in students, employees, and staff getting licensed towards their CPA process. So we basically assist you in providing resources and information to get you where you need to go. And myself, I've worked with UC Davis Extension for the last 4 years, assisting their students, just making sure they have all of the resources, and the program itself is a great resource to make sure that you guys are meeting those educational requirements, which is step one in becoming a CPA. Educational requirements vary by jurisdiction and state, so you want to make sure that you're checking with the specific jurisdiction in which you reside. The easiest way to do that, to find out what your specific educational requirements are, is to go to NASBA's website, which is nasba.org. And I believe there will be a brochure that gets sent out after this presentation that will have all of this information in it as well. And NASBA's website will give a breakdown for every single state board. So as an example, in California, the educational requirements can be a little tricky to read in terms of what the requirements to sit for the exam are versus what the requirements to get licensed for the exam are. And that's why a program such as this UC Davis Extension program is very beneficial, because it will help you get through those requirements needed for both sitting and licensure, and help put you on the right track and get you closer to where you need to be. Usually, once the educational requirements are met, people will then apply to take the CPA exam. Application process, again, also varies by jurisdiction, but typically falls through AICPA. AICPA is the national governing body for certified public accountants, and AICPA is the institution that creates, develops, and scores the CPA exam. And most application processes will go through your state board, NASBA, or AICPA. Again, varies by state. Again, as an example, in California, people apply directly to the California State Board to make sure that they can be approved to actually sit and take the exam. Once you receive an approval saying that you are approved to take the exam, that's called an NTS, a notice to schedule. Once you receive a notice to schedule is typically good for 6 to 9 months. Also, again, varies by jurisdiction. But even though it's only good for 6 to 9 months, it's an easy reapply, which means at the end of, say, 9 months, you just do a reapply process. It's about a 2-week process just to get a reapply approval, and you can continue to test. One of the things that's important to note about the CPA exam is there are 4 parts to the exam, which is financial, which would be closely aligned to intermediate accounting. You also have audit, you have regulation, which is tax, and then you have business. And those 4 parts all 4 have to be passed within one 18-month rolling cycle. So it's good to make sure that you, as Terry was mentioning, make sure you're planning and preparing and carving things out as best you can to know that you'll have an 18-month window to get them all passed together. When you actually go through and have received your notice to schedule, you've applied, you're kind of in that process, you're going to be, taking all of the concepts that you've learned throughout your UC Davis extension course, and you're going to be really trying to put those together and create a study plan for yourself that's allowing you, as again Terry mentioned, which is sort of strategically trying to target a certain section at a time. You're not going to want to take multiple sections, but you're going to want to look at the best option for yourself in terms of which section to take first and which section to take next. A really good rule of thumb usually is you want to look at those sections that do have similar content or information. So typically in that case, you're looking at financial and audit tend to be the 2 CPA exam sections that have somewhat of similar content, and regulation and business have somewhat similar content. So you can kind of break those up. And even though you have 18 months, it's good to, I always say, tell yourself you have a year, knock one out every quarter. And that kind of puts it into an easier perspective since we're all used to taking quarter classes anyway. And then when you get through the process of getting your notice to schedule and being able to actually go test, you want to be familiar with Prometric. Prometric is the actual testing facility where you will go take the CPA exam. There are Prometric facilities everywhere in every major city, and you can test at any Prometric for any state approval. So as an example, and I say this because as you start to work in the accounting field, you may have clients in various states or jurisdictions, or you may travel for your job. And if you are approved by one state, you can still test anywhere because this is a national test. So as example, if you are living in California and working in California, and you have applied to California State Board and got approved, but then you get sent to Colorado to work, you can still test in Colorado if that timeline matches when you want to test. So good to know. Also, Prometric's website, which is also in the brochure that'll be sent out, if you go to prometric.com, they have about an 8-minute video that walks you through the entire testing process. So what to expect on exam day, what the actual testing facility looks like, and you can schedule a test drive with Prometric, which they will allow you to go in and actually go through the whole process. And it's about a 30-minute window that they give you just to kind of experience it, which is always a great thing to do. And then for the CPA exam licensure, again, you've gone through this process of meeting your educational requirements, you've gone through your application, you've studied, you've gone to Prometric, you've taken the exam, and once you've passed all 4, licensure usually is also dependent upon work experience. So one of the best forms of advice that I can give you if you have not already been working in the accounting field, or I know many of you said you were looking for a job change or looking to enhance your skills, one thing you might want to start to take a look at is internships or leadership programs or ways that you can start to obtain some additional accounting work experience while you're pursuing your educational goals. And that way, by the time you pass all 4 parts of the exam, you will have obtained that work experience, and then you can apply for licensure.
All right, so I'm gone ahead and put Janae's information up here on the screen. So if you want to contact her directly, as I mentioned, Becker Test Prep is a partner of ours, but it is separate from UC Davis. So it's a great resource, but you'll want to work with them directly as you go through the process if you think you're getting close and you want to sign up for any of their products or packages or just get advice from Janae. And when we send our follow-up email after the webinar, we'll also include some brochures from Becker just so you can kind of learn a little bit more about sitting for the exam. Okay. All right, so that concludes pretty much the standard presentation that I had. I'd like at this point to really encourage you to send any questions to us, things we might not have covered or things you'd like to know more about, because this is your opportunity, to kind of pick our brains and hear from us about the program. Okay. All right, so someone's wanting to know, is there a recommended order that you should take the classes? That's a really good question. So for the principals certificate courses, there isn't a recommended order except for the prereqs, but the prereqs can make it a little tricky. So as I mentioned earlier, you'll want to look at the schedule because we vary our schedule every other quarter. But generally, you'll want to do principles of financial accounting first, no matter what. And then if you have the opportunity to take intermediate accounting 1, take it, because you will need that before you can move on to 2, and you don't want that to hold up your progress. And then principles of cost accounting, the final course in that grouping, is available every other quarter. So you can kind of fit that in, and even could take that concurrently if you wanted.
We have another question. It says, if you pay as you go, roughly how much does each course cost?
Yeah, so each course is $880. As I mentioned earlier, there's a variety of discounts that are available, including the one for today's information session, and the discounts can't be combined. But it'll be $880 a course tuition, and then it's it depends obviously on each course, but budget a few $100s per course for textbooks. And some of those textbooks now are available online, and that is fine. You can do any format that works for you. We honor all of them.
We have another question. Someone's asking, who do we check in with to see if our previous accounting class fulfills the prerequisites needed?
Yeah, you can give Generi a call or an email about that, and you can do that through the information that's on the screen now, and we'll let you know. I mean, basically, we want the content needs to match. For example, principles of financial accounting. The content and the credit units need to match. So the course has to be for academic credit. It has to be the equivalent of 4 quarter units or more, and it has to cover the content we cover. And principles of financial accounting and principles of cost accounting are the easiest to kind of substitute or meet the prereq, because the curriculum tends to be very standard university to university. If you start getting up into the advanced courses, not so much, but you can always give us a call if you're interested, whether a previous course meets the prerequisite requirement or whether it's eligible for a substitute for anything in our program. Okay. Oh, and then one last question. When is the best time to start the program? The nice thing about continuing ed is we offer courses all 4 quarters throughout the whole year. And so there's really no difference to us when you get started. You just have to meet the prerequisites and progress in your coursework. We've tried to design the schedule to make that as versatile as possible. I will say when you enter in the fall and the spring, you can progress a little faster because you could take 1 course per quarter and finish straight through. If you started the winter and the summer, and this includes the fast track schedule, you sometimes take an extra quarter. Now that you're not taking more coursework, you just skip a quarter just because of the schedule. So sometimes people actually deliberately do winter or summer start because they want a little break.
Someone was also asking, how many credited units do they need to complete in order to qualify for the CPA exam?
Yeah, so you would need 9 of our courses to sit for the CPA exam. That's 36 quarter units. And so if you take every course in our program, you would not only earn 2 certificates, but you would have all the coursework needed to sit for the CPA exam. Now, I realize a good number of you have accounting courses from other institutions, so you would want to take whatever you had, say at UC Davis undergrad or whichever, take those credit units, add them to ours. As I mentioned, every single one of our accounting courses is 4 credit units, so it's pretty straightforward. And then if those 2 populations together add up to 36 quarter credit units, then you're fine as well. You don't have to take everything with us. You just have to take it with a university and that offers academic credit. All right. All right. I think that looks like that's all of our questions. I know you might think of things afterwards. That's fine. I encourage you to use the email below. Send us any questions and we'll be sure to get back to you. As we mentioned, Jen will also be sending a follow-up message with a coupon code and a bunch of phone numbers and resources that we referenced during the webinar, as well as a link to the webinar video on our website in case you want to watch it again or you want to refer it to anybody else. I did just want to talk about next steps. So the next steps are, if you're ready to enroll, you can enroll right online. If you do encounter any problems enrolling online because of prereqs done elsewhere or such, you can just always enroll by phone. And you can also, as I mentioned, call that number or send us an email if you have a specific question for the program advisors, Jen and I. Student Services is really great that way. They can answer 99% of your questions, but they're also good about sending people to us if people have more specific questions or situations. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you in our program. Bye-bye.